Utah finally found a quarterback in the transfer portal. Caleb Lohner is coming in. Football, basketball, what's he going to be doing? And the men's basketball team also added a guard. All that and more on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcasts. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X today. And today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now, free on the Google Play or the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. My name is JT Wistricll, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by a friend of the show, Michell Bodkin of KSL Sports. And Michelle, we had heard so much clamoring even before spring ball began, after spring ball, even though the quarterbacks looked good. Wilson looked really good, and Rose had some up and down moments, but he's been with the team for a while. I think the coaches felt fine about their quarterback room, but there was still noise about adding a transfer quarterback from fans especially. But even Coach Whittingham said that's something we'll look into, and we find the right guy, that's what we'll add. Well, they found the right guys. They decided to add Sam Huard, comes over, played at Cal Poly last year. This is a guy who was at Cal Poly in the Big Sky. Shout out Big Sky. And he was second in the conference after starting 9 games in yards per game at 249 passing touchdowns with 18. You're talking about a redshirt junior year. It's going to have 2 years of eligibility left, which makes sense because if you're committing to Utah, you better be willing to sit a year, and then you can have an opportunity to try and start because you ain't beating out Cam Rising this fall, of course, too. But this is a guy who used to be at Washington, a really high-regarded recruit at the time, a former 5-star. And this is exactly the kind of backup quarterback. I never felt like Utah needed to add one, but this just feels like it makes a strong room of quarterbacks even stronger. Whether he becomes the backup this year or give him an opportunity to try to start for the job next year, I think this is a great addition.
Yeah, I think this is exactly the kind of guy that Utah needed to add if they were going to add someone, and that's just it. Utah was not going to add just anyone. This wasn't about adding a warm body. This was about adding someone that makes them better. And that's going to be that way across the board. I know there's been a lot of clamoring about, oh my gosh, we're not seeing people transferring into the program. What's going on here? Utah can be picky. Let me say that again. Utah is in a position where they can be picky. I know that feels weird. I know that people aren't maybe used to that, but that's kind of where this 2024 team is. And so there isn't a rush to just grab guys. I think they're taking their time. They're evaluating fit. They're evaluating need is maybe a little bit of a stretch. They're evaluating wants. What do we want? Where do we think we can add bodies that is going to make us better? Quarterback was certainly one of those position groups where I think they could have added someone could add someone, and it would be a high value add if they got the right guy. And I think they nailed it. I think they hit it on the head with this guy. You help take some pressure off of your freshman quarterback. He looked great. But still, if you don't have to play him right out of the gate, if he's not absolutely needed right out of the gate, I think that just bodes better for him. Let him learn a little bit. Let him kind of soak in the college experience and learn from people. You have Cam Rising around to learn from. You have Andy Ludwig to learn from. And now you bring in a guy like Sam Huard that I think also brings some valuable experience and life advice for your freshman guy. And even for Brandon Rose, Brandon Rose is still a young guy. So I think this was a really great ad. I think they were really smart and intentional in making this decision. And I think it's going to pay off dividends, whether he contributes a whole lot or not. This is just the kind of guy that at this point in time, if Utah's serious about being the Big 12 champ, and if they are serious about making a run in the college football playoff, these are the kinds of guys that they need to be bringing in. So well done to them.
It's a great point, especially let's talk about Wilson. I really like that you mentioned it's probably better for him if he doesn't play this fall. Prove us wrong, Will Isaac. Go out there. If you get thrown into the game, like dice it up, that would be awesome.
I'll happily eat my words on that.
Yeah, I would as well. But let's also just he saw what happened with his brother in the NFL when he was thrown out there too early, and it didn't go well for Isaac, and hence why Zach is now closer to Isaac in Denver, as the Jets have already punted on him, right? And that's not all Zach's fault. They have a lot of issues, but Zach obviously didn't do everything with his end of the bargain either. That's where Isaac, he got thrown in there. Some of the fans and the criticism, if he didn't perform up to par, that can be damaging when you're getting that kind of criticism and things of that nature too. So that's where it could be good for him. And if he's able to beat out Sam, like you said, good for him to be in the backup. But if not, a lot of guys are usually better when they sit for a year of learn the speed of the college game, all those type of things. And Sam has had the opportunity to do that. I think the thing that is so fascinating, Michelle, and I know you know this too, because you've talked to these quarterbacks about this. It's hard to pick up the Utah playbook. So if we're saying, I still think if I had to say at this exact moment right now, who will be Utah's backup quarterback this fall? Actually, the more I think about it, I actually think this guy has a decent shot because I think they would tweak the offense and do things for Sam to maybe enhance him. But I still think it's going to be really close to see if he does beat out Brandon and those guys or not. Because Brandon, obviously, of the three of Sam, Brandon Rose, and Isaac Wilson, Brandon has the best knowledge of the playbook, right? So you can do the most with him. But Sam, doing what he did at Cal Poly, he's more accomplished at the collegiate level. So I think it's going to be a fascinating battle. If I had to say right now, maybe I'll give Sam the slight edge just because of that playing experience. But having the playbook experience of knowing Utah's is also a big reason to think Rose can still very well be the backup.
Bottom line is, I think at this point in time, Utah has three viable options, right?
Yes.
And I know that fans weren't impressed with Brandon in the spring game, and that's fine. But you have to understand there's a whole body of work that none of us got to see, and the coaches were overall very pleased.
I thought the offensive line did him no favors in that game, too. I'm not trying to call anyone out, but I thought, especially early on in that game, I thought he was under tremendous pressure that Wilson and Rising simply weren't.
Yeah. I think the white team was a little more struggle less than the red team, for sure. But like I said, you've now given yourself three options to work with. And after last year, I think we've all learned that it's pretty important to have options. It got a little hairy, it got a little dicey. Utah, ended up having to use their fifth, sixth string option, and they still won games doing that, which is kind of crazy. That doesn't happen very often, especially when you add in all the other injuries that they had. And so that's just what this is all about. They are all about where can we add high value pieces that are going to help make us better. Some of them might not play, but overall, we are just making sure that we are shored up and we are ready to make a run at this thing. Because I think Utah's dead serious. I think they understand how big this is. Not only just for pride's sake, but with conference realignment, there's a lot on the line at the moment. You have to put your best foot forward from here on out if you're one of those fringe teams, and Utah's one of those fringe teams. So and I think they see that, and I think they see that they have a great opportunity here with all the guys that have returned, all the guys that they brought in, all the guys that they are still thinking about bringing in. I was just told today they're not done. There are other guys. I don't have specifics, but just understand Utah football is not done bringing in people. So, and the impression I got from this person, they're pretty excited about the people that they're looking to bring in. So get ready, Utah fans. It's going to be a fun ride. This was just the first of many gets for the Utes that I think fans will ultimately end up being very pleased with.
I think that's really exciting to hear. And also, I hope a lot of you who are listening, please remember Michelle said this, so you're not like, what is Utah doing? They're not adding talent. Just wait. It'll come. The coaches are working. These guys have done a great job recruiting at Utah. So I think they're going to find the right players that fit. And Huard is the exact type of right player, right? It didn't work around at Washington, his original go, but he had the opportunity to go to Cal Poly. And I think the other thing we like too is it's not like Sam Huard is not the guaranteed starter of the future of Utah football. He still has to earn the job and do all those things. And I have confidence if he were to earn the job in 2025, let him go at it. I think it's a great addition to the room. I'm excited to see how this current three-headed battle for the quarterback spot might play out come spring ball 2025. So there's a lot of exciting things going on for the University of Utah football team. And I think there's a lot of excitement to be adding the potential quarterback of the future, as well as a very strong, viable backup option come this fall. But Huard wasn't the only addition to the football program made this week, as Caleb Lohner is going to be joining the football program. It's been over 24 hours, and I think all of us are still kind of processing that craziness. So I'm going to talk to Michell about if we think Lohner is going to play and how much this fall, because he also has a chance with the basketball team too. So still a lot to dive into on today's show. But first, I want to talk to you guys about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes, our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. You can keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, Michelle. Caleb Lohner. I told this story yesterday. I remember being a sophomore on campus, bumping into Caleb on his visit with Utah, just when I was a student. Yeah. And, of course, he did not go, and that was with Larry Krystkowiak, and he did not commit to Larry Krystkowiak. He instead went to BYU, played there for 2 years, then went to play for Scott Drew at Baylor. Made a lot of sense. So got 1 year of eligibility left because of all the COVID things like that. Might have a red shirt, but more than likely just 1 year of eligibility left as we stand here. That's what we currently believe it to be. But all of a sudden, we was like, okay, Caleb Lohner, no one in Utah was really taught. Yes, there were some rumors and things that popped up, but no one, as soon as the college basketball season ended, was like, oh, Caleb Lohner is going to come back to Utah. That was in the past. That was gone. That was forgotten. And then it's one thing for him to maybe transfer back and playing basketball. Okay, you went to Wasatch. You have a history with the state. For him to be playing football is still incredible. And, Michelle, this is where I'll turn it over to you. Of this tight end room of all places, it just even adds to the shock to me.
Yeah, this was a little bit of a twist. It was a twist that for a lot of us in the know, not terribly surprising. We suspected this was coming down the pipeline. He was seen at the Utah spring game, and that's kind of what set off people asking some questions, getting the sense that something might be happening here. And it's come out that Caleb Lohner, his parents, his family, apparently know the Whittinghams. So there's this connection here. And I think this level of trust that it just made it a comfortable move. What seems like a really random out of left field move, a comfortable move. Now, does that mean that he'll be successful? We have to wait and see, right? Because as you mentioned, tight end is an area that Utah is really pretty stacked at. They have really a lot of great options. And to ask a guy that hasn't really, to my knowledge, played much, if any, football before, it's a big ask. But I think this is, again, a case of, as I said earlier in the show, Utah's in a place where it's wants. It's not needs, it's wants. And they have the ability, I think, the wiggle room in the depth chart to maybe take a shot at, something a little bit out there. And I think, again, this is a guy that fits that mold. You have incredible size. You have an incredible wingspan. As a basketball player, that is a different set of athleticism than you typically get in a football player. We saw that a little bit with Dalton Kincaid, and Utah had a lot of success with Dalton Kincaid. So, I think there's reasons and feelings for why this is a good move. Does he end up being just a situational guy that they maybe throw in the end zone and say, hey, go get that ball? Tell Cam to let it rip. and just come down with the ball? Do you put him in the middle of field goal attempts and have him try to block that? There's some possibilities there. He may not be the biggest star. He may not, do anything crazy, but he might have a role for this team that's very important and just causes some problems. He does have to prove that he gets and understands the football stuff first and foremost. They can't just send him out there willy-nilly. Like he does have to pick up the playbook to some degree. But I think there's just a lot of potential there. And I think Utah feels very confident. They've taken different position groups and moved them and transformed them into, a fantastic, fabulous NFL player. Why not try taking someone from a completely different sport and turning them into a football player? You've had success doing it in a much smaller type of role. Why not try a little bit bigger? I think if anyone can pull this off, it's Kyle Whittingham, his staff at Utah.
Very true. Let's look back on a former Baylor men's basketball player who made the transition to tight end and got an opportunity with the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think he's there anymore, but Mark Vital was the Baylor center on the championship team a few years ago, and he didn't have an NBA future. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go try to play in the NFL. And they gave him a shot because of the physical profile. That's clearly what Utah's doing. To me, this is a move for, look, Lohner is a guy who averaged, I think, like 1 point per game last year with Baylor. And he provided it, he's a big body, can come in there and rebound. He did things. And I do expect him to still, even if he were great on the football field this year, as well, whatever great for him would look like, I expect him to play on the basketball team, which is a very welcome addition because he obviously just lost a guy in Caleb. This is where Lohner can definitely be a contributor on Craig Smith's team come this fall. But I do think there's some excitement there. Like you said, just the physical traits. There are less than 30 NFL players, I believe, who are currently even 6'8". So that's where it's just wow, he just stands out from that standpoint as well of just having that size and the leaping ability, and just going to have to work on the concentration, the hands when you're being contacted with DBs, how you fight through that and make the contested grabs. So that's where it is going to be interesting. And I think, Michelle, you said it best. I think situational spots is where we'll see him, right? Because let's name names. Brant Keithy is the top tight end on this team. Carson Ryan and Landon King are probably 2 and 3. The blocking guy is probably going to be Miki Sugacharaga again. And that's why I'm even mentioning a guy in Dolan Bentley who had a really good spring camp, right? And Bentley is the exact opposite of Lohner, right? Years of experience, still talented enough to be on this team, obviously, and can do some things, but he doesn't have all the physical talents in the world that a Lohner has, but he knows the position so much better. That's where I'd rather trust him. I just feel like he'll be making more plays this fall if it came to that than a Lohner would. But as we even talked about off the top that you mentioned, this is a Utah team that is not a position of, man, we need a tight end. Hey, we have this 6'8" super athlete who wants to come play football. And Kyle Whittingham, you can help out the basketball team by getting him on too. Yeah. You want to take a chance on it? Sure, let's do it.
And that's just it. Even if he flames out on the football end of it, I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to be more than helpful for Craig Smith's basketball team. So I think either way, Utah Athletics gets their bang for their buck on this one. I think it was a great move. And how ironic that this kid that committed to Larry Kraskowiak defected on the commitment, went to BYU, went to Baylor, and is now back at Utah to start at football, but also play basketball is just the funniest thing to me. So I can't wait to see how it plays out. It certainly added a little drama on a Monday, and it's fun when things work out unexpectedly. And I think it's a cool story, and I hope in some way, some shape, some form, it works out, because I think that's a story worth telling. I think it's just getting his perspective on how and why and when and where all this took place for him to be kind of back where he started.
It's been an incredible journey for him. Excited to see what this year plays out. We don't just say how this football season plays out. It's how does the basketball season play out too, which is really exciting, and it'll be fascinating to see what it looks like for him as a member of this University of Utah football team in 2024 with football, and then 2024 and 2025 with the basketball team too. And speaking of the basketball team, Lohner was not the only piece they were able to add this week, because we know they've been losing some talented pieces. So it was nice to see them get Miro Little added to the roster, a Baylor men's basketball player. I want to talk about what he'll be bringing to the roster in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of today's episode of Locked On Utes. It's our friends at Monopoly Go. We got to take a quick pause and we got to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you can unlock. And there's so much to get, whether it's unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the board with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults, or even things like Plus Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton, including their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot machine. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multiplayers for everyone, everything you win, or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go and download it now free on the Google Play or the App Store. So game on. Make sure you guys head over today and sign up with Monopoly Go. Also want to talk to you all about our friends at Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if we could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio, deal with the rising cost of inflation to pay off your debt or your mortgage. Pretty much anything standing in the way of you and financial freedom, right? Well, with Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help you reach that financial freedom. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, you've researched, you invested, all that. Now you can take all those investments to the next level by using what every great financial person uses, Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for the extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They are the number one financial destination, producing a holistic look at financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analysis, rating, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. So you can join today with a community of over 90 million users each month. Their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news analysis, visit brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. And once again, that's yahoofinance.com. All right, Michelle, talk about the Utah men's basketball team. It's been a rough go recently when you're talking about the run news, right? Davon Smith entered the portal. He did officially go somewhere else. Chris Burgess leaves and goes back to BYU. That was a big no-no. And right at the 11th hour, the portal was about to close. Keba Keita also enters the transfer portal. So, and you're already losing Brandon Carlson. You got Gabe Madsen back, but man, and even the players you've added, right? Like, I like Madsen's brother. Mason has done some really good things during his time in college, but he only even averaged 8 points a game last year. If you're entering a really tough conference, I think it understands why fans were looking for bigger gets and names, Dawes, Keller, players who could potentially to contribute, but no one that really moves the needle like crazy. And in some ways, maybe that's not Muriel Little either, but Little is a guy who's played with the Finnish national team at the 2023 FIBA World Cup, right? So he's played against league competition. While he was over there, he averaged 5 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 17 minutes per game. And he actually played a lot for Baylor this past year as a freshman, appearing in 35 games. But yes, he did not do much. He averaged less than a point a game, but he did have some nice moments, right? Like when he scored a career-high 9 points, including the final points in the history of the Farrell Center against Mississippi Valley State. So there was flashes of potential. Baylor's really good. I'm not breaking news here. Utah's not going to beat Baylor this coming season. So Little, who has had a year to develop, is no longer stuck behind a strong backcourt. I think has a chance to be the starting point guard on this team and be the guy that was a 4-star get for Scott Drew and his program. I think this is a really good addition to this team. And personally, of all the talent they've added so far, Michelle, I think the one I'm the most excited about.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it, right? He has the athleticism I think you want. While the numbers aren't impressive, he has shown some consistency in his shot percentages, which is something that I think Utah's lacked a little bit, especially at the free throw line, but even at like the three, like they just were so up and down with it. And he seems to have a pretty consistent number that he hits. Do you need more production out of him? Yes. But if you can still maintain that percentage and just up the production, I think he's a really good get. And they absolutely needed a point guard. And absolutely zero offense to Hunter Erickson, but he's not the starter. He's a great bench player.
It's true. It's true. It's absolutely true. Yep.
He showed flashes as being a really great add off of the bench. And I think that's where he needs to stay. He could not be Utah's starter. And so I think with Miro, they fixed that problem. Are there some question marks about his game? Yes, but there were question marks about Davon's game too. And look what he turned into. This is a case of, it's a small sample size. And I know that there's a lot of things that fans are disappointed in with Craig Smith, but I think one thing that they shouldn't be too disappointed in, because I think he has proved himself in that regard, is finding under the radar talent and letting it blow up. I think that's the one area he's excelled at. I think Miro Little shows the same type of potential. Again, you kind of look at him on the surface and it's like, you maybe go a little yawn. But you really look and break down the tape. There's something there to work with. That's every bit as good as what Davon Smith brought to the team. And I mean, would you still want Davon Smith if you could have had Davon Smith? Yes, absolutely. I'm not saying that solves all the problems and that let's just forget about Davon. No. But do I think under the circumstances, this was a good get and has the potential to do really well for Utah and help them out next year? Yes, that's what I'm saying.
I think you're right. I think there's definitely the potential for him to be a big addition. I think it's really interesting when you look at Craig Smith's history. You mentioned there have been guys that have worked. There's also been the Dave Jenkins that didn't pan out as you've hoped. There's also been the Mike Saunders. So that's where I think it's really exciting to see in what feels like a make or break year for Craig Smith. How good is Miro going to be? Because we'll see who else Utah gets. But as the point guard on a team entering an incredibly tough conference, it's going to be a lot of pressure on Miro probably to be really good right away. And, you mentioned the football team earlier, staying active. I don't have any inside information. I guarantee you the men's basketball program is still actively looking at players throughout the transfer portal. I mean, right, Michelle?
I did the math on my fingers. Math is not my strong suit. I believe they still have 5 spots they need to fill. So yeah, their work's not done. But this was a great start to hopefully righting the ship, which it felt like was starting to really kind of teeter the wrong way. But now it feels like, we've kind of balanced ourselves back up a little bit. And we'll see, what happens with this staff. And of course, on top of the 5 or so players that Utah still needs to bring in, they also have 2 open assistant spots that need to be taken care of as well. So there's a lot of work ahead of them to make them even just passively good in what's going to be, a tough conference. And a lot of the stuff that's happened has not been ideal. It's put them back. It's put them behind the 8 ball. It's put their backs up against a wall. It's made what was already going to be probably a tough job even tougher. Can they improve enough, to be at least serviceably good in a really good conference? We'll see. I'm not saying it's possible, but I'm also not saying it's impossible either. So it's just a case of you have to wait and see. But I think you have to trust the things that that they are good at. And the one thing that I think Craig Smith is really, really good at is finding, again, that under the radar talent, guys that are maybe sitting behind someone else or are in a system that just doesn't really suit their talents and lets them do their thing. So we'll see how it all works out. We'll see how it all rolls out. Again, a lot of work ahead of them.
Yeah.
Not impossible. But it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. To your point on the coaches, I think Craig Smith and his staff, I think they do a really good job. They have to figure out the road thing. And look, obviously they've lost some big games and things in that nature in the past. So that'll be the question this year. Tough going into a big conference, but excited to see what Craig Smith and co can do. But getting Little was a nice step in the positive direction because you mentioned The ship was very much so teetering. You could just check social media and see that last week for how the fans were feeling at the time when Burgess and Caba entered the portal and kind of left Utah in back-to-back days. That's where things got really crazy. So be interesting to see where the rest of the offseason plays out. We are in the offseason for football and basketball, Michelle, but if this weekend was any example with all the craziness we had to cover just in this show, there's still a lot happening at the University of Utah going on. So if people want to try to stay up to date with everything, where should they head over to?
Yeah. So, currently right now we are doing baseball, softball, lacrosse. Obviously, we're following recruiting stuff for football and basketball. And we're slowly starting to get into feature season as well. So start looking for some of those. There's been a few that I've already posted, but to look for those, go to kslsports.com, click on the Utah Utes tab. Just about everything there is written by me. And then, of course, if you want to follow me on social media, you can hit me up on X, Instagram, or Threads. That's the other one. And it's the same handle across the board. It's at Bodkin KSL Sports.
Michelle, thank you for joining us. Great stuff as always.
Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. We'll be back with you tomorrow talking more things Utah football and Utah athletics.